The year-to-date performance of Nigeria's equities market was up 10.7% as at close of Friday, driven by investors' demand for dividend-paying securities and positive earnings projections from bellwethers. And I'm going to speak into Samuel Banmeke. He's a senior research analyst at Meristem. He joins me to discuss what's driving sentiments in the equity space here in Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time today, Samuel. Let's look at what we're seeing drive sentiment here for investors. Last week we saw that they're more or less tilting towards those securities that are giving investors some dividends here, and also the projections we saw play out from some of the bellwethers here. I'd like you to speak to that as well.
Thank you for having me, Kenneth. Last week we saw the equities market, the Asian index closing at 0.3%, and we saw the year-to-date moving up to 11.1%. The major driver of that has been the earnings releases and also investors taking position ahead of dividend announcements. Overall, in the first quarter of 2022, the mood has been predominantly bullish, and the mood has been positive. We've seen a lot of liquidity in the market. If you look at the fixed income space, there was a bond maturity in the fixed income space, and also we've had OMO maturities in the fixed income OMO maturities also. And then that has been one of the drivers of the equities market. As you see, investors rotating funds into the equities market. Also, for the first quarter of 2022, we've seen a lot of corporate action, like the likes of Dansem share buyback, Stapler, information around Stapler and Boa Foods. It has also driven sentiment in the market. And to crown it all, we saw earnings releases, good performance in companies across various sectors, and then also, recording also strong dividend. And we've seen investors, taking position in the market, ahead of these earnings releases, and also strong dividend positions.
Yeah, but when you look at how things are playing out and setting up for this week, though, what do you think would drive sentiment, especially what we've seen play out, what we're seeing, conversations around what's playing out in the global space? Earlier, if you heard my conversation with Nandi, I was just talking about, the possibility of the Fed starting its rate hikes tomorrow as well. But looking at the global investment climate, and do we see that mirror here in terms of sentiments going into the week?
All right, looking at the Nigerian equities market, you could see that the participation of foreign investors has reduced. I mean, domestic players, take about 70% in the market right now, and we are not expecting that that global sentiment to actually flow into the market. For this week, we are expecting that investors will continue to actually, take positions ahead of the earnings releases, and also for dividends position. I mean, the mood has been predominantly bearish, and we are expecting that positive sentiment will flow into the market. And also we see some upside on some tickers, especially the local stocks. So we expect the prevalence of in the market. And again, this outlook is further supported by the unattractive rates in the fixed income space. If you look at the last fixed income, the primary NTP, primary market option for Treasury bills, you will see that rate decline across board. On the short end of the curve, you see rate decline by 25 basis points. And investors have to rotate funds into the equities market this time around. So we are expecting that this week, those activities will shape the sentiment of investors in the market this week.
Yeah, because when you look at how things shaped up in the first quarter, we saw quite a lot happen here, on the corporate side. And looking at a catalyst for the market going to the second quarter, do you think we could see similar sentiments coming up in the second quarter?
All right. Well, for the second quarter of this year, we expect the market. I would expect the market to be fairly upbeat. I mean, I would expect that positive sentiment to still flow, riding on the back of corporate actions, corporate announcements, and also still investors trying to look at, earnings releases and maybe dividend. But all the same, I will not rule out the possibility of a mild sell-off in the market. I mean, investors might want to take profit from tickers that have gained appreciably, and also might begin to see markdown for dividend in the market. So all these two factors might shape the sentiment in the market for Q2. And most importantly, if we see a reversal in fixed income yield, that might also, add to the sentiment that we witnessed in the equities market over the second quarter of 2022.
Yeah, because when you look at what we've seen play out in terms of the first quarter and some of the projections we're seeing in terms of earnings coming up as well, What would you say are some of the key sectors that we need to watch for in the second quarter?
All right, some of the key sectors you need to watch out for. I mean, we talk about the telecom sector. The sector has been defensive. Posted good numbers even in the wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, we expect that tickers in the telecom sector we actually do well, posted good earnings numbers. And if you look at the industrial goods sector, you also see that we expect the tickers to also proceed good numbers. I mean, on the back of strong infrastructural plan by the government, that should boost earnings in that sector. And also looking at the consumer goods sector, we should see good performances, from the consumer goods sector as well, and then also the banking sector. I mean, the banking sector have been riding on the wave of non-interest income, especially from the e-banking segment of the companies, and we've been seeing how they have been able to proceed good top line and also bottom line. So we're expecting that that would actually shape the thoughts and the sentiment of investors around tickers in the banking sector.